This is a video I've been thinking about doing for a while, and then I keep forgetting about it. I was off for like 3 days this last weekend. Was very busy, running around doing stuff a couple of those days. And then yesterday, I was watching a couple of videos on YouTube, and it reminded me of it. But once again, you're hearing a lot of people talk about Social Security and everything, and you see people telling you how stupid it is to wait until you're 65 or whatever. You need to try and get out of the workforce earlier so you have time to enjoy your life, and what the life expectancy is. Not just the life expectancy, but at what age people start having lots of health issues. And here in America, thanks to our lovely diet and lifestyle, it's not quite as high as in some other countries, But things are different for everybody. Everyone has a different kind of situation. Some people, by the time they get into their 60s, they are just totally broken down and worn out, and they can't fathom working anymore, Other people, you get to your 60s and you realize that, damn, I'm just not feeling that old. And that's really what the point of this video is, that our attitudes about age change as we get older, Whenever you're young, you see somebody who's 50 or 60 and you think, oh my God, those people are old, And then as you yourself start aging, though, and you reach those different ages, a lot of times you still feel very young. Sometimes you feel younger than you did when you were actually physically young, because a lot of it's a mental attitude kind of thing, and where you're at emotionally, even spiritually or whatever. And people have totally different attitudes sometimes. So you hear people saying, why would anybody stay in the workforce once they've gotten to like 62 or so? But for a lot of people, when you get to the age of 62, you realize that you're just not feeling that bad, Now, a lot of people will say, well, yeah, right now you're not, but you're going to regret it if you wait another few years to retire, because then suddenly you're going to realize, okay, now I'm retired and I am feeling horrible. But that's one of those things you can never predict. It's so easy to just make generalizations about that stuff, but every single one of us has our own unique set of circumstances. There are quite a lot of us. None of us knows in advance, because sometimes people who have ancestors, parents, or whoever who didn't really live super late end up having a long lifespan. And then other people who maybe their parents lived a long, long time, they aren't going to. Some of it's lifestyle. Certainly in earlier generations, you look at the way some of our parents came up and the things that they went through. They had a lot of stress and problems and worries very early on in their life. Talk about people back in the day who grew up during the Great Depression and stuff. Some of those people didn't really have the best nutrition and everything during their younger years. So there's so many different factors. You just can't say as a general rule. And that's why everybody has to make their own decision about this stuff. Some people will say, well, man, you're crazy if you keep going. But even now, you look at the current situation we're in with politics. New administration, lots of people coming in and doing kind of wild and crazy stuff that you don't know where they're going to go next or what they're going to try and do. You got some of these old politicians sitting around, never did anything except live off of the American taxpayer for 40, 50 years, never had a real job in their life. And then they want to talk about how everybody else is living off the government tit, It's amazing. And that's all they've done for their whole life. And the rest of us paid their salaries and we're paying their pensions and their health care and everything. And then you look at these people who have gone out and actually worked out in the real world instead of sitting around in Congress or whatever, and worked like dogs, and then they want to try and dismantle their Social Security and stuff. So there's a lot of factors. You don't know exactly what's going to happen and how you're going to have to deal with that. But I find myself in my own situation, as I've said before, I'm 61, and I just don't feel that super old. I mean, there are times when I feel it, but even a lot of that I know is just lifestyle stuff, and certainly the fact that I'm still working. Once upon a time, 15, 20 years ago, it didn't bother me to go out, work 9-10 hours a day, 6 days a week, hardly ever have a day off except for Sunday, get right back to it the next week. Monday morning rolls around, and just go all the time. And as you get older and your body wears down a little, you're just not as capable of doing that. And a lot of it's not just physical, it's mental too. You just don't feel like going through it and putting up with all the crap every day like you used to when you were younger. But a lot of people, they find out when they do stop working and they don't have that daily grind of 9, 10, 11 hours a day that they're devoting to getting up and getting ready to go to work and working and fighting with the traffic and stuff, that actually once that daily grind is gone, they actually start feeling a lot younger. So you don't know how long, even if you're feeling tired right now sometimes, that's what happens when you work. You feel tired. And that doesn't mean that you're wearing down and getting ready to die. It just means you're working, you're tired. That's the result of going out and having a job and having to deal with all that every day. I know I've seen people that retired from the Postal Service. One time when I was working as an acting supervisor at this one office, this carrier came in to mail something one day, and I was talking to him. He had just retired like a year or so earlier, and man, that guy looked like he was 10 years younger than he was when I knew him, as a carrier. And I've seen a lot of people like that. It's pretty good for you sometimes, just mentally, psychologically, when you're done with that daily grind. And after you retire, you can take a lot better care of yourself sometimes. You're not out just going nonstop. It's like carrying mail. You have no choice but to keep going. It doesn't matter if you're tired or exhausted. You're getting paid to do a job, and even if you're tired and you think, well, man, I'd love to chill out now. I've worked for like 4 or 5 hours. You've still got half your route left, so you just have to keep going. Whether you're tired or not, it doesn't matter. And once you're retired, you're not in that situation. You can get up, do a reasonable amount of exercise and stuff every day and keep yourself active and all of that without wearing yourself down. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with a guy named Chad Wright. Has this YouTube channel called the 3 of 7 Project, and he was a Navy SEAL, and he does a lot of this, super long distance running and things like that. I saw he did this 5-day race one time, like 150 miles or something, I forget. But I saw him on a podcast one time and talking about this stuff. And it's like he said, with that endurance racing and the ultra long marathons and things, it's not really healthy for you. The reason people do that stuff, it proves a certain amount of dedication and what you're able to drive yourself to be capable of doing, but it isn't actually healthy for you. You're wearing your body down, and the human body wasn't just meant to go like that all the time. Some people have more of a tolerance for it than others, and certainly it's nice if people want to drive themselves to do that just to prove what they can accomplish and for the mental discipline and so forth. But going like that all the time, just working, and pushing your body like that, it's not really healthy for you. So there does come to a point where you might retire and still be able to go out and do good exercise for an hour or two every day, get in a nice long walk and some, weightlifting a few times a week and whatever, and you're still going to be able to keep yourself really healthy, but you're not going to feel as worn down. And that's one reason why you see people, a lot of times they retire and suddenly they're looking much younger. Just because you're tired doesn't mean that when you retire you've only got a year or two left. That's what happens. When you're working, you're going to be tired. So I think sometimes people get really pessimistic and stress themselves out about stuff, and oh my God, I've got to retire right now or I'm not going to have any years left once I finally do. And that's not necessarily the way it works. You need to eat healthy and stuff like that and try to watch your health. But a lot of people are not in as horrible a shape as they think. It's a mental thing for a lot of them, where they're just, they've convinced themselves that if they don't retire, that they're only going to have a couple of years left whenever they finally do. On the other hand, a lot of us, as we get older, we realize that maybe it's not as terrible as we thought it was.